Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Becker and I'm taping a video for you on Monday evening because I can't be with you on Tuesday during class. I hope your I-ready math went really well and that you did your best. And today, just kind of like last week, since I leave campus at the middle of the day for my part-time hours, someone else is in the room with you right now. So thank you to whoever is playing this video and helping my kids today. Students, you're already here, you figured it out that it's an odd day, but I do need you to do a couple things as you come into class. So I do need you to pick up your folder and spiral from that front green crate by the front table. So if a majority of you don't have your folder and spiral, can you please raise your hand right now so that the teacher knows to pause the video and allow you a minute to get your folder and your spiral? You do need the essay packet and text tracker out of your folder. So please, let's pause the video and give you a minute to get that if you don't have it already. And then once you have your folder and your spiral, of course, your phone is off and in your bag, and you do need a sharpened pencil today and a highlighter. So please take a moment to find a highlighter or something you could use like a highlighter. On my supply table under the clock, you can find some extra highlighters or even yellow markers could do the trick. So take a moment to find one of those supplies too. Also, I should mention, if anybody was absent yesterday and does not have the essay packet and text tracker, you can find extras on the tall table next to my podium. So you can take a minute to find that as well. Okay, so when everyone is ready with their folder, their spiral, their pencil, and their highlighter, let's go over just what we're going to accomplish in the next half hour. Let me go ahead and change this because I have this erroneous number there. So here's our agenda for today. We are only in here from 1:15 to 1:54. 1:15 to 1:54. So we just have roughly a half hour. We've gotten our supplies set before us, and now we're going to go to step 2 and 3. I'm going to lead you through studying source 2 in your packet. I know that we've not done source 1 yet, but it's super long, so that's not a good one for today. But we're going to look at source 2, read it and mark it up together, and then fill in some information in our text tracker before you leave, okay? So if you recall what we talked about yesterday, we're starting our essay unit. Hip, hip, hooray. I know some of you were in the corner of the room yesterday that did not care for essay writing. Most of you are in the corners of the room where you can do it, but just don't love it. But we're going to make it through. Okay, so we're starting our essay unit. Remember, this week, the standard we have to show proficiency with is that we know how to draw evidence out of informational texts to support an analysis. So, you know, for something like this essay where we're given a prompt and then a bunch of sources, you can't just randomly go into the sources and pull out quotes and just hope you can weave together an essay. You have to be able to draw out the most appropriate and relevant evidence that you need to support an analysis of exactly what your prompt is asking you to do or to explore. Okay, so this essay this week is an informational essay based on informational texts. So your packet that you got yesterday, you should have that in front of you right now. Remember, it has the prompt at the top and then 4 sources included. Here's what it looks like. Yours is not in color, of course. Sorry about that, but it has the prompt at the top where it said we're going to use the information in the passage set to write an essay explaining how culture impacts how individuals think, act, and feel. So remember, we said this is a pretty broad prompt. It's basically how culture impacts people, which is super, super broad. We could write a lot of things about this. Our 4 articles would tell us some things, but we really want to focus on finding evidence inside these sources of how culture or how the lifestyle of a group of people, how that impacts people's thoughts or the things they do, the actions they take, or the feelings and emotions they have. Okay, so our plan is we're going to read through source 2 today and look for those things. Look to see how the person in the article has been impacted by their culture, like how it impacts their thoughts, actions, and feelings. Okay, so remember, we have all these 4 articles, but we're only doing source 2 today, which we briefly peeked at the end of class yesterday. We're looking at source 2, which is a blog entry by a teenager, and it's called My Experience as a Teen Immigrant by Selena Martinez. So she's going to talk us through some key things that she experienced, okay? So we've got our packet, we've got our prompt, We know we've got our sources to deal with, and we also have that text tracker. I do want you to make sure you've got this out on your desk as well. This is the single sheet of paper that I passed out to you yesterday. Notice how it has a spot for source 1, source 2, source 3, source 4. So what we will be doing is, you can see there's an example right here. We will be putting in the title and the authors for the source, and then we'll be filling in all the other relevant information. So for example, we'll fill in let me get this out of here for a second. We'll fill in the central idea of the text, and then how, according to the source, culture impacts people's thoughts, actions, and feelings. So today, after we mark up source 2, we're going to fill out this column here. So I'm showing it to you now so that you know where you're headed. We're going to need to be able to say, what's the central idea of source 2? And according to source 2, how does culture impact people? Okay, so we need to be ready to head in that direction. So let's go ahead and get ready to mark up source 2. Have your highlighter ready with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the source here on the screen. I actually have it in a separate document right here. I'm going to read through source 2. I'm going to highlight with my cursor some things that I want you to highlight with your actual highlighter in your hand. Okay, and after we highlight together, I might make some notes. So like, I might read this paragraph here, I might highlight some things, and then I might type in a new color some notes. Those are the type of notes that I want you to write with your pencil off to the side or off in the margins, because it's important to annotate or mark up with your words, mark up a text as you read it, okay? So have your highlighter and pencil ready. Remember our prompt. We're looking for how culture impacts how individuals think, or how it impacts their actions and their feelings, okay? So source 2, My Experience as a Teen Immigrant by Selena Martinez. When I immigrated to the United States, I was just 7 years old. My mom and I came from a village in Colombia. I don't remember too much about it and don't miss it too much, although my mom did miss it a lot at first. But things weren't so great for us in Colombia after she lost her job and dad died. So when she was hired for a good job in the US, we decided to move. I was unhappy to leave my relatives and friends, but mom knew I'd get a great education here. At first, I found it hard to fit in at my school, Oakvale Elementary. I was the only immigrant in my class. Everything was so very different. The language, the way people looked, and even the food was alien. The first time I ever saw mac and cheese was in the school cafeteria. I was shy and felt like a loner. Sometimes I would make mistakes and some kids in class would laugh. I'd feel my face get hot and I'd look down at my desk. I didn't think I'd ever really fit in. I'd come home to mom after school and cry because I was so lonely. So I'm going to mark a couple things here. I think we may have marked something yesterday when we previewed this paragraph, but so far I've learned that Selena came here from Colombia at age 7 to the United States, and she found it hard to fit in. I feel like that's a thought and a feeling, so I'm going to highlight that with my highlighter here. She found it hard to fit in. She thought everything was so different, right? That was the key, like everything down to the food, right? She'd never seen mac and cheese before, so everything is completely different and overwhelming. She was shy and she felt like a loner. That's an important feeling, and I think that might come up again in some of our, some of our other sources that we have for our essay. She felt alone. She felt like a loner. She felt like there was no one else with her. She was just kind of this island floating along. She felt embarrassed about her mistakes, right? Kids would laugh at her. I'm going to highlight that part about I'd feel my face get hot, because it just sort of captures the embarrassment she felt about feeling, so different and so out of place. She didn't think she'd ever fit in. That's key, right? That's a key thought. She didn't ever think she'd fit in. I wonder if that's something that immigrants feel, even if they've been in a place a long time. I wonder if they feel like they've really fit in by some point, like checked off everything on their checklist, or if it's still always a work in progress. And then I really think this part is so emotional and such a good potential piece of evidence for our essay. She would come home crying from elementary school because she was so lonely. So what I'm seeing here, and you can pause the video if you need to catch up on the highlighting, but what I'm seeing here and what I want to mark up with my purple here, and you can write it down with your pencil, is that the feeling she was having, she felt like an outsider, she felt like she was lonely, and she felt embarrassed. right? So when we talk about like how does culture make people feel, potentially, if your culture is making you feel different, then you could feel these things. You might feel like an outsider, you might feel lonely, you might feel embarrassed. So feel free to pause the video here and jot that down. Okay, so then the next paragraph, she says, then, after only a few weeks, I began to make friends. During the first week, Jean, who sat beside me in class, smiled at me and helped me find my way around school. We quickly became good friends. Then Mark, who is kind and funny, helped me a couple times when I had trouble finding the correct English word. We'd all sit together at lunch and make each other laugh. As time went on, I began to feel like I was fitting in. It felt so much better to belong, and I didn't feel so much like an outsider. I'm going to highlight this part down here. It is interesting to know like the details about her friends, Jean and Mark, who reached out to her. But I think this is the most important part of that paragraph for us. Like as time passed, she begins to feel better, right? She feels like she's belonging to a group. So that kind of fits with the idea I already typed in purple. So I don't think I need to annotate anything new. But I think this might be an important sentence I could come back to later. So feel free to pause if you need to grab that sentence. And let's see what it says down here in paragraph 9. It says, now I feel proud to be a Colombian American teen. She says the word now, that transition. So I'm assuming like this part that we already read was all elementary school. And now we know she's a teenager. The title tells us she's a teenager. So I guess years have passed and it says, now I feel proud to be a Colombian American teen. I feel like I have the best of two worlds. Some of my relatives are still in Colombia. Barichara, the village where I was born, is considered one of the prettiest villages in the country. A couple years back, Mom and I went for a visit. It was such a great experience. Although I hadn't seen some of my relatives in a long time, we hugged and kissed. It was so exciting to see them all again. We plan on visiting them this year too. I can't wait to see them and try more of Aunt Sophia's spicy vegetarian food. I'm kind of smiling when I read this part because I feel great about like this transition that she made from this lonely crying elementary school student to now somebody who's feeling proud, not just proud that she fit into America, but proud that she has this bicultural identity. I feel proud to be a Colombian American teen. And she says, I feel like I have the best of two worlds. Right? She gets all the perks of being Colombian and all the perks of being an American. So it's kind of been this evolution for her over time. So I'm going to add a note here because a new feeling has emerged. She's proud of her bicultural identity. So you can jot that down with your pencil. Proud of her bicultural identity. Feels awesome to have two worlds, as she calls it. I guess I should write out the number 2. Two worlds. You can pause the video to jot that down. So then she says, we've got 2 little paragraphs left. She says, after high school, so this is talking about her goals now. After high school, I want to go to college and study to become a teacher. Being an immigrant has inspired me to work in education. I feel I could use my experience of learning a new language to help others. I think I've learned valuable skills for coping in a new country. I also learned that if you work hard and are determined, you can conquer fears and problems. Whew, okay, I have a lot to highlight and mark there. Let me go ahead and read that last little paragraph and then we'll do both of them together. I am so different now than when I first came to the United States. I'm a much more confident person and I enjoy meeting new people and getting to know them. I'd love to speak up in class and participate. Recently, I got an award for debating in a state competition. Imagine that. Me, that little girl who was too shy to speak up in class. I've come a long way, don't you think? And then it ends there. So I'm so happy for her, this evolution she's continued to make. So over time, we know she became more proud and confident of being this sort of girl with a bicultural identity. And now look at what she's thinking for her future. So let's highlight some things. So she says, after high school, I want to go to college and study to become a teacher. I'm going to highlight that because it seems like an action that might be relevant for our essay. It says, being an immigrant has inspired me to work in education. that's tied to that other sentence we just grabbed. So this whole idea of her actions she's going to take have been shaped by her culture because her cultural experience has pointed her to be a teacher, right? She feels like she can use what she went through to help others. She's got these skills for coping that she can share, right? I'm going to highlight this part about helping others just because it goes with the idea of teaching and what she plans to do in the future. And then I'm also going to grab this last sentence. I know it feels like we're highlighting the whole paragraph, but there's a thought here. She says she's learned that throughout her years in America, she's learned that if you work hard and are determined, you can conquer fears and problems. So that's like a new belief or thought that she has because of her cultural experience here. So I'm going to jot down a couple of things that I want you to write down in the margins or in the white space that you have. So as far as, let me get that highlighter off. As far as actions, right? Because we know our prompt asked us, how does culture impact what people do, how they act? So if she's going to become a teacher, actually, let me rephrase that. Hold on 1 second. Culture can inspire your job choice or career aspirations. So like where you're from or your change in culture, it can inspire your future, right? So what you've been through can shape your future goals. And then we have this new thought or belief that her cultural experience has helped her gain. Hard work plus determination means you can overcome, right, your fears and your problems. It's a lesson or a belief she might not have developed if she hadn't been through these things as a teen immigrant. So you can pause to write that down. And the last thing that I want to grab is that she's much more confident, right? I'll hide that whole part. I'm a much more confident person. I'm kind of like envious. Like I feel like I would love to have this confidence that she's developed along the years. So I'm going to put that here as my last thought. I'm sorry, is my last thought in purple here. Last annotation that you can make, sort of a feeling confident, right? It kind of goes with how she was feeling proud before, but you might feel a growing confidence, right, over time if you go through an experience where you shift cultures. So you can pause the video and grab that, and then we're going to head over to the text tracker. Okay, so assuming you've got all this stuff here, let's just take an overall glimpse at what we read. We learned how at first her culture made Selena feel like an outsider, lonely, and embarrassed. Then she eventually felt proud of being somebody who had two cultures inside her, a bicultural identity. And now her cultural experiences have inspired her to choose a certain job and to have this certain life lesson in her brain now that hard work and determination can overcome anything. So she's become a much more confident person. So now we've got this text tracker over here, and we need to fill out this part for source 2. So we'll take a minute to fill out first the title and the authors. So we're going to say, let's see, what was it? My life or my experience? My experience as a teen immigrant. Let's go ahead and fill that in. It'd be helpful if I spell it right. And then for the author, it's the girl herself, right? So Selena Martinez. I'll give you a minute. You can pause and write that down. Then for central idea of the text. Okay, central idea. Remember, what is the central idea? It's kind of like main idea. It's whatever the topic is plus what the author says about it. So I think I have a slide here for you. For central idea, here we go. Central idea is the topic, whatever that source was about, plus what the author, what Selena said about that. So I've given you here on this screen sort of a word bank, but it's a central idea bank. I've given you 4 sentences here on this bullet list. One of them is the correct central idea. So I want you to take a minute. You're going to pause the video in a second. You're going to read over the 4. You're going to decide as a class which one you think is the correct central idea. You can take a little vote if you need to. And then you're going to record that central idea in your text tracker. Okay? So it should be the sentence that captures the whole article, as much of it as possible, captures all the main essence of what it's about. Okay? I'll give you a second to pause, think, decide as a class what's the correct one, and write it down. Okay, so just to double check before we move on, you should have, as a class, chosen this one right here, this pink bullet point, this sentence that said, Selena Martinez transformed from a shy newcomer to a proud, confident Colombian American teen. That's the best one, okay? And it's the best central idea because let's look at the other ones. This one about Selena Martinez learning to speak up and like earning an award, those are all true things, but that's not the central, most important idea of the whole passage. Those are two details that describe like how she grew, but it doesn't capture anything about her early days as a teen immigrant or as an elementary school immigrant at that point. This yellow sentence here about how it's embarrassing to make mistakes and determination is needed to overcome that. Determination kind of draws my eye because I know she taught us about that and she was embarrassed to make mistakes, but I don't feel like the whole point of the passage was to learn to overcome embarrassment. Like that is something that she did, right? She did transform, and we are going to capture that here in sentence 3, which is the correct main idea. But this one's a little too broad, and it doesn't even mention Selena Martinez by name, which really she's the point of the whole passage. So I'm not going to choose that one. And this final one about how immigrants like Selena feel lonely, isolated, and ostracized or like outsiders, all true, but that doesn't capture the second half of the article, which is all about how she transformed to proud and confident. So you want to make sure you've got that sentence written down in your text tracker, okay, for central idea. So that should go right here, okay? So then the final thing you need to do, pause if you need a second on the video, is this part here. How does culture impact how people think, act, and feel? So we need to look at our little annotations that we made with our pencil and see what we jotted down. Like, how did Selena's culture impact her thoughts? How did it impact her actions? And how did it impact her feelings? Okay. This is the same process we'll go through with every source, right? We can look back and think, okay, well, how did her culture impact her? How did it impact what she was thinking, how she acted, and her feelings, okay? So for an example, I'm going to give you one, and then I'll see what you can come up with. For example, when it says, like, how does culture impact how people think? Well, let me go back to and see what I wrote down, right? What were some thoughts she had? She had a thought / feeling about being an outsider. She did think she was never going to fit in. Down here, it said she had this thought about hard work and determination can overcome fears and problems, and she became confident. So what I might say in my text tracker for how culture impacts how people think is, I might say cultural experiences teach people to think hard work, overcome any problems, right? You don't have to write complete sentences. I just am right now. So it can people to think new things, right? To believe they can overcome anything. I'm also going to put culture can help you grow more confident. Think highly of yourself, because we saw that at the end too. I know you have very limited space in your graphic organizer, so just capture what you can, okay? Cultural experiences can teach people to think hard work can overcome any problem, and culture can help you grow more confident. For actions, you want to get something here about how her cultural experience inspired her job choice or inspired her career path that she's going to take. Like now she wants to help people and sort of give back. So you want to add something about that here. And then for the last area about how culture impacts how people feel, you want to add something here about it can make you feel like an outsider or like you're lonely, right? If your culture is different from everyone else's, it can make you feel like a lonely outsider until you get that sense of belonging. Okay, so I'll let you grab those thoughts right there. So you'll have something under each heading here, and then that should set you up. So when you're done with that, then your teacher can pause the video on this wrap-up screen about what to do with your materials, okay? But for right now, go ahead and do this part here. I'll stop talking, and when your teacher is ready, then he or she can move forward to that last wrap-up screen. Okay, so when we're all done, good job, you guys. Thank you for doing this all via video today. I really appreciate you guys more than you'll know. Today, your essay packet and your text tracker need to go back in your Bellwork folder in the front pocket. Okay, so if I look at them when I come in tomorrow morning, I'll see everybody's highlighted passages and their text tracker filled out. That folder and spiral need to go back in the crate. Remember that tomorrow you have iReady math testing again, but you'll study source 3 in the afternoon, okay? And then we'll finish up the week with the rest of our sources and some iReady reading practice, okay? Have a great afternoon, you guys. Thank you for being such great students for your teacher. I will see you soon.